Today on Let's Fish TV, join me, Andrew Upshaw. We're in Central Florida at a very special place that we call Jurassic Park. It is Kenansville, Florida. It is full of big bass. We're gonna be doing a couple of different things today. Throwing a Strike King cutter worm, flipping some hyacinth, and hopefully catching some really big bass. You're not gonna wanna miss today's episode. Let's Fish TV is on the air right now.
That's a big one right there.
It's time for the only program that brings you real-time fishing reports from the Southwest region every week.
You ever caught a fish that big?
No!
Got him.
Not of the day. There you go. Another redfish. Got him. Now, that's what Let's Fish TV is all about right there, guys. Welcome to Let's Fish TV. I'm your host, Andrew Upshaw, and today we're in Kenansville, Florida. This little lake is located just southeast of Orlando, and it is loaded with big bass. This place has so much to offer. Water hyacinth, hydrilla, ducks, alligators, all types of wildlife. Today we're gonna be targeting largemouth bass. I actually had the opportunity to film an episode of Strike King Pro Team Journal a few years ago, and we absolutely smashed them. It was during a cold front, and I can't wait to show you just how great this place is. We'll also have this week's fishing report from your local region from our insider reporters. Meantime, I'm gonna get the Lances fired up, the power poles up, get my rod rigged, and we'll toss it back to the studio for your weekend planner.
Hi everybody, these Salooner tables are predicting good game fish activity both days this weekend. Look for peak game fish activity to begin at 7:45 on Saturday and 8:21 Sunday morning. Nighttime action will begin at 8:10 on Saturday and 8:46 Sunday evening. Depending on your area, expect the sun to rise around 6:22 and set around 8:32. This weekend will display a moon that's 31% visible. Be sure to join Let's Fish TV on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to stay up to date with our latest fishing adventures and tips.
All right, guys, today we're headed out on Kenansville Lake. This place is a really awesome place. It is loaded with big bass, has a lot of different types of vegetation. We got water hyacinth, we got hydrilla. Guys, I've been here once before. It was absolutely phenomenal, and I can't wait to get back out there. We got a little cold front coming in. We're in Central Florida, and it's kind of, when you get these cold fronts, fish sometimes shut down, so I'm not really sure what to expect. I know we're gonna be doing a little bit of flipping, throw a little swimming worm, maybe an ocho a little bit. I have a feeling we're gonna catch some big ones today. It might take us a little while, but we're gonna have a good show. Couldn't ask for better weather. It's calm right now. Sometimes in Florida, it kind of messes it up when it's calm, but I have a feeling the wind's gonna pick up throughout the day and we'll be able to catch some fish. But let's get out there and let's see what we can do. Go. Oh, it's a giant. I mean, a giant. Oh, goodness gracious. Come here, you big joker. Oh. Talk about a way to start the day. Oh my goodness, that is an absolute monster. You know, we're gonna have to weigh this thing, guys. I mean, this thing is absolutely enormous. Welcome to Let's Fish TV, punching up some giants here in Florida. Whew, I thought it was like a 3-pounder when I hooked it, I'm not gonna lie. That is incredible. All right, guys, let's get a weight on this thing. 7 pounds, 6 ounces. First fish of the day. We're in Kenansville, Florida. Fishing a place that I've known for a long time as Jurassic Park. Oh my gosh, first fish, monster. You know, guys, I always wanted to film a show here. I filmed one for Pro Team Journal a few years ago. Caught them on a Thunder Cricket right when the Thunder Cricket got released. And it was a really hard day. It was a cold front day. And we caught them pretty good still, but I've always wanted to come back and flip here. I mean, I'd always heard how great the hyacinths are, and I wanted to get and use my Super Duty combo and really put it to the test. And that's what we're doing here today is I'm punching this heavy hyacinth, 1.5 ounce Strike King tungsten weight, Super Duty 300 and a 7.5 foot heavy action rod. Getting in that stuff, not using active target today, not doing anything fancy, literally putting a flipping stick in my hand and going to work. You know, that's sometimes I think gets lost with anglers sometimes. We get so locked in on one thing or another. Sometimes we just gotta go fishing, and that's what we're gonna be doing on Let's Fish TV today. So y'all gonna stay tuned. We're 1 7-pounder in and we just started the show. Can't wait for y'all to see what else happens next.
Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's Lone Star Lakes, brought to you once again by the good folks at Freeman Toyota, home of the free 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty on all new cars and 3 years free oil changes and tire rotations. Now, the lakes were down, then the rains came and the lakes filled up, particularly Eagle Mountain. I mentioned a few weeks ago the water's back at Eagle Mountain and the docks are underwater now. Well, here's something interesting that happened while the water was down. Homeowners placed brush under their docks. Yes, they took advantage of the low water, went out and put new brush piles under those docks that were exposed. Now those docks and those brush piles are inundated and they're pulling in the crappie by the zillions. Go down the bank, look at the docks with your side imaging and see if it's got brush. If it does, make a mark. After you've marked several docks that have brush, stop, turn around, go back and start over and start fishing those docks with your crappie jigs and your minnows, of course. That's how you'll catch some Eagle Mountain crappie. Now, Lake of the Pines bass, they've wrapped up their spawn, they've moved offshore into their summer pattern, which is hanging out off points and over structure out over deeper water. And it doesn't have to be 30 feet, it can just be 15 to 18 feet of water, but you're looking for a hump or something on a point that's a little bit different, a little bit deeper. Throw your Carolina rigs and your deep diving cranks to catch those Lake of the Pines deep bass. That's this week's Lone Star Lakes. Check us out on Facebook, Lone Star Lakes.
There we go. Oh, baby, another giant. Oh, come here, baby. There we go. Come here, big baby. Oh, look at that. Goodness gracious. Another giant. Ugh. Ate that Magnum cutter worm. Wow. That is an unbelievable fish. Let's get this fish back. We're gonna talk about a little bit about Kenansville, South Florida, and if you come down to South Florida, exactly what you need to have in your arsenal. Followed up that 7-pounder with another one close to 7 pounds. This place is unreal. Now granted, it's been a little tougher today. It's not just hot and heavy all day long, but when you get a bite, it's typically a really big one. You know, when it comes to figuring out what baits you need for Florida or anytime you decide to visit and come bass fishing down here, there's a couple different styles of soft plastics that will help you catch fish day in and day out at just about any Florida lake that you go to. One of those baits is the Magnum Cutter Worm by Strike King. This is a worm that I bring down here every single year and I absolutely catch some monsters on it. I use June bug color more than just about any other color. Another good option would be like a green pumpkin or a green pumpkin candy. Now, another couple of different baits that you might need is a Strike King Ocho, which is a 5-inch stick worm. You can catch a lot of big bass on that. And as you could tell earlier, on my 7.5 pounder, I caught that one on a Strike King Rage Bug. So between those three bait models, you should be able to cover just about any soft plastic offering that you may need down here. But I'm gonna get back to fishing. Guys, the fish are biting. We're during a cold front, so it's a little bit off, but I have a feeling we're gonna catch a few more big ones before the end of the day. So I'm gonna get back to it. I'll see y'all here in just a second.
Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Mercury, Go Boldly, Loran's, the ultimate fishing system, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism. Let's fish on Alabama's beaches. Motor Guides Tour Pro with GPS anchor, powered by Passion.
Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, got her whipped. There we go, 5-pounder. Oh, there's one. There we go. There we go, that's a nice one. And it's not a 7-pounder, but it's a nice little fish. Swimming that Magnum cutter worm again. Not a bad fish right there. Let's get this fish back and we're talking a little bit more about how to fish this Magnum cutter worm on your neck of the woods and where you can catch them. You know, that wasn't a bad fish. Was it a 6 or 7-pounder? Absolutely not. But you know, every time we go fishing, it isn't always about how many big fish we catch, but just how many fish we catch in general. And that's one thing that the Magnum cutter worm and the regular size cutter worm is gonna give you. You know, I've been fishing a cutter worm for a few years now, and quite honestly, it is one of the best swimming worms that you can buy. You know, the Magnum cutter worm is one that I tend to throw down here, but if I'm in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, any of these other lakes, I always throw the regular size cutter worm. I'll fish it on brush piles, I'll swim it, do all kinds of different things. But when you're swimming a cutter worm, there's one thing that you really need to take into consideration, and that is pegging a weight. You know, whether it's an 1/8 ounce or a 3/16. Today I'm throwing a 3/16, and most of the time when I'm in Florida, that is the size I throw. Now for the hook, I use anywhere between a 4 and a 5/0 G Finesse Gamakatsu hook, and this is one of the biggest keys. See that? That's fluorocarbon line. I don't like fishing it on braid. You get way more bites on fluorocarbon than you do braid, but you gotta make sure you have the right retrieve, and probably the most important part is setting the hook. So when you make your cast out there and you're reeling in, you wanna keep your rod tip high and you wanna reel very slow. And anytime you come across a piece of cover, you might kill it a little bit and then start reeling it again. When the fish bites it, it'll be like any standard worm bite. Boom, hits it hard, you reel down, you let him swim with it for a second, then set the hook. The worst thing you can do is as soon as you feel that bite, set the hook, because they haven't got the bait in their mouth completely. Most of the time, if you do that, you're gonna come back with half your worm or just miss them altogether. So if you follow that little tip, make sure when you're reeling that bait high, you drop your rod, you reel down, you set the hook, you will land more of these fish on a Magnum cutter worm. But guys, the fish are starting to bite. It's starting to warm up this afternoon. We're gonna catch them.
Hi everyone, Captain Taylor Burrell here with this week's fishing report. Don't really have much of offshore report this week. It's been really windy down here. Some of the party boats have been able to get out. They've been doing really good on yellowfin tunas, beeliners. They even caught a few groupers here and there. One party boat I think had 5 or 6 amberjacks come back. But inshore, with all that rain coming down here this way, it's pushed a lot of fish into the bay, and they're gonna keep on moving down towards they get to the jetties. A lot of guys been doing really good on speckled trout, redfish, even some flounder being caught. At the jetties, the sharks have finally showed up. So if y'all wanna catch a shark, right now is a pretty good time, all the way up into the summer. I've been catching a lot of bull reds at the jetties, even some big speckled trout. Not very many, but a few. I know of at least 2 that were over 26, 28 caught the other day. That's about it. Guys, if you want to come fish down here in Galveston, Texas, give us a call. Thanks. Sideline.
Oh yeah, there we go. Oh man, guys, that was awesome right there. There we go. Oh, what a good bass that is. Ooh, got her whipped. There we go. 5-pounder. And we're working on a mega bag today, fellas. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about. Another nice Kenansville bass. Over 5 for sure. So what is that? A 5, a 6, and a 7 today. Goodness gracious. Let's get this fish back. What a gorgeous bass though. Guys, Kenansville isn't on fire. But I'm gonna tell you, it is fishing pretty darn good. I mean, when a bad day is, you catch a 7, a 6, and a 5, I count that as a pretty darn good day. But let's get this fish back and we'll talk a little bit more about it and how that bite just triggered me into knowing exactly what to do on the next one. You know, that bite clued me in on something that a lot of times as anglers we tend to overlook. You know, one thing we always look at is wind, sun, clouds. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is there a cold front? We look at all these different things. Well, in this situation, it slicked off. There's almost no wind out here right now. And I keep throwing this Magnum cutter worm, and I've had a lot of fish wake on it, miss it, bite the tail off, things like that. And one thing that I did, and this is something that you can take back to wherever you're fishing. If you're fishing a moving bait when it's dead calm like this, there's 2 things. One, if the fish misses it, you can pick up a backup bait. That's where the Strike King Ocho really comes into play. Caught one just a few minutes ago, followed it up, you know, after it missed the bait. It was a little one, but just that's the prime example of what you should do. You should always have a follow-up bait for a moving bait in a situation like this. Secondly, wind kind of started kicking up just a little bit, just a little ripple. I picked up that Magnum cutter worm and I was reeling it right there, and I saw the wake coming. And you know, instinctively, you know, as an angler, you just keep going. And eventually that fish is gonna catch up. But when it gets calm, one thing you can do is just drop the worm. So what I mean by that is you'll be reeling it along, you see that wake coming, just drop your line, stop reeling, and let it drop right in front of that fish. I did it that time, the fish went over there and ate it. If I'd have kept reeling that bait, more than likely that fish would not have eaten the bait. So take that little tip, and I promise you, it will put, even if it's 1 extra fish in the boat, it matters, I promise. Like, just trust me when I say, if it slicks off, you got 1 wake to it, drop the worm, you'll be impressed how many extra bites you get. If we're getting towards the end of the day, I'm gonna get back out there and see if I can catch me a couple more before it gets dark. Because when it gets dark in Florida, I don't know about everywhere else, but when it gets dark in Florida, the pterodactyl mosquitoes come out, and I don't want no part of that. So, see you in a second.
Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Powerful, total boat control. Balls Out, made in the USA. Heavy duty mounts for your fish finders. Rely on, challenge your limits.
I mean, any time that you can catch a 7-pounder, a 6-pounder, and a 5-pounder in a day, it's gotta be a good day. There we go. He's just deciding where he wants to go. And he's just going. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, and he just fell off just like that. Another nice bass here. Oh my goodness. Man, it has been a pretty wonderful day. I mean, anytime that you can catch a 7-pounder, a 6-pounder, and a 5-pounder in a day, it's got to be a good day. You know, Florida, the nice thing about fishing in Florida is when everything else around is cold, you can come here and you can catch fish. And most of the time, you can be in your shorts. You know, as today, we're in sweatshirts, but it's still about 68 to 70 degrees. So I mean, it's still really, really nice. But I want to leave y'all with one little tip that I really think you need to know. And this applies for anywhere bass are getting ready to spawn or they're spawning and you're fishing in shallow water. You know, one thing about it is stealth is paramount to catching bass that are spawning or spooky or pressured. In this situation, we got dead calm conditions. Fish are acting a little weird. One thing we did is we turned off all our graphs, turned off all our transducers, eliminated that noise, and that's one of the big keys. As much as I love my Lowrance Active Target 2, and as much as I use it, there's still time when you gotta turn it off and eliminate that noise so you don't spook these fish when they're getting ready to spawn. The second thing is to have good shallow water anchors. And in this case, I'm using power pole blades. I've used blades for quite some time. They are what I turn to when it matters most. And it doesn't matter if you're sight fishing, it matters when you're in that shallow water, you're going 20 or 30 feet, you're dropping those poles, you're making a bunch of casts, you move up a little bit, drop them again. You can't, I just can't even explain to you how important it is to be stealthy in these types of conditions. You'll get so many more bites. You can go behind just about anybody. I promise you guys, you take that tip and you'll learn a little bit. But hey, I'm gonna head back in. Mosquitoes are starting to get bad. Getting to the end of the day, I don't want to get bit by any more mosquitoes. And if next time y'all see me, we're gonna be talking about how we caught them here today and exactly what you need if you come to this lake. See y'all here in a second.
Watch our latest episode or catch up on past episodes on our website at letsfishtv.com. Be sure to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and download the free Waypoint TV app to get all the latest episodes every week on your phone, tablet, computer, or smart TV. Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Lake Hartwell Country. Catch the feeling. Lose, feel the difference. Strike King, tie one on. And by Glacier Outdoor. Outdoors since 1982. Here's today's Right Stuff, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Today on Kenansville, I used two different baits to catch the majority of my bass. The very first bait was the Rage Bug, Strike King Rage Bug, 1.5 ounce weight. This caught the biggest fish of the day, a 7.5 pounder. And I was using a 7.6 Super Duty speed stick. This is a heavy duty rod, 7.6 heavy action, and a 300 size 7.5 to 1 gear ratio Super Duty reel. You know, it's so important when you're flipping that grass to have the right setup. And I hope you learned how to use this setup today. But the breadwinner, the one bait that caught it all, was the Strike King Rage Cutter Worm. This is the Magnum Rage Cutter Worm, June bug color, 5/0 hook, and a 3/16 ounce peg Strike King tungsten weight. Guys, when you're fishing this, fluorocarbon, at least for what I was doing, is key. 17-pound Strike King Contra fluorocarbon. And the rod was a 7.2 heavy action. This is a Lew's Signature Series rod. This is one of my favorite rods. I use it for so many different things. If you watch this episode, you watch all the other ones. If I'm flipping, casting a worm, this is the rod that I'm gonna turn to almost all the time. 7.5 to 1 gear ratio, Team Lew's Elite TI. This is a brand new reel, super high end, so smooth. I mean, honestly, it's like fishing with nothing in your hands. But the big key today, and this is an extremely big key, was to fish this thing slow, keeping that rod angled high, just like this. And when they bit, you took your time, you reeled down, and you set the hook. You know, guys, the cool thing about this, the Rage Cutter Worm, being one of my favorite worms that Strike King's ever made, is actually available at Academy. You should definitely go get you a pack or two. And I'm gonna just tell you guys, you won't regret it, because you can fish it anywhere and everywhere, and it will catch fish for you day in and day out. But guys, I hope y'all learned how to catch them here on Kenansville. I can't wait till you see next week's episode. And until next time, I'll see you on the water.